Hello and welcome to Mindset Mondays with DTK. This is episode number 108 in an ongoing series of live broadcasts designed for folks with a growth mindset or for those who'd like to develop one. The concept is a place to play with new ideas, new concepts, and try on new mindsets. Sorry, I'm just getting messages about the ability to see or hear. Seems that the mic was hot when it wasn't supposed to be yet. Love that. So here's the quote we're going to play with today. It's not the answer that enlightens, but the question. So that's our playground today. And the idea that I want to play with is, for the first 2 decades of my professional life, my job was to have the answer. As a consultant, that's what my job was. That's what I got paid for. And if I didn't know the answer, I was expected to figure it out, or in most cases, make it up. That means the asset that I was rewarded for was effectively information, an exhaustible, finite resource, right? And that's a hard row to hoe. Did it for a very long time, right? The game was, what was the saying in consulting? You just had to stay 1 page ahead of your client to be valuable. So it was exhausting. And it was because I was focused on the answer, not the question. So that's why I love Eugene Ionesco's quote, the idea that the answer is not what enlightens, but the question. So as a coach, my job is not to merely ask questions, but, and I love this way of saying it, it's to help clients live into better questions, not to deal with the presenting problem, but to ask the questions to get down to what's deeper and what's underneath it so that a better question is being asked. The assets for which I'm now rewarded are my creativity and my curiosity, and those are both infinite resources. And as a leader or a parent, especially now as we're in such challenging times, your job is exactly the same. It's not to be the answer person, right? Giving one the answer is not a way to grow those in your charge. It's more of an egoic exercise. It's that path. It's a path to forwarding dependence in your folk. So the question is, where can you shift, particularly now, to growing your folk by asking them better questions and helping them ask better questions? Yes, there are times now, particularly with what's going on with COVID-19, and as crazy as things are getting, and as fast as the news is progressing, there are times where you're going to have to give answers. And this is not a way, it's not a way to say avoid answering questions. This is really about how are you fostering leadership and growth and development in the folks that report to you when they're stuck, when they're concerned, when they're freaking out, and you simply give them the answer, you cheat them from the opportunity to unearth the answers themselves, to trust what they already know. And leaders who are constantly challenged and complaining by team members that are coming to them every time they're stuck. And I ask them, so how often when folks come to you when they're stuck, do you just give them the answer and send them away because it's so much easier? Like all the time. When I'm overloaded, it's so easy to just say, fine, here's the answer, go take care of it. As opposed to, wow, that's an interesting question. Where's that coming from? What is it you're trying to unpack? One of the things that my original Vistage chair, Larry Hart, did in our Vistage group years ago was put an issue processing form together that was designed for the Vistage members to think through and capture all the information about an issue that they wanted to bring to the Vistage meeting for the other CEOs to process. And we noticed is instead of the form making it easier for folk to bring well thought out issues, in other words, meatier, weightier issues for us to play with, instead of it fostering more of that behavior where more of the members were bringing better issues to the group, we started seeing that the CEO members were bringing fewer issues. It turns out by walking through this sort of issue processing form, we were solving the issues ourselves. The questions that we put together, it was very simple. It was starting with what's the strategic cost of this issue, right? What are the salient points that we in this group need to know? In other words, bullet out the background information, right? What are the different solutions you're considering and why? Which one are you leaning towards and why? And what is it you need from this group? Now, over the years, this got fleshed out a little more. We inserted values and some other things that played into it, but those are the basic components. So, wow, what's the strategic cost of the issue? What are the background elements? What are the things solutions you're leaning towards and why? And what's the one, or what are the solutions that you see available? What's the one you're leaning towards and why? And what is it you need from the group? Started working with my clients to make that available for their direct reports, because the direct reports that tend to come to them and say, I'm stuck, save me, give me the answer. Just giving them that issue processing form, just giving them those steps to walk through. In most cases, they're resolving the problem themselves. Just the discipline of laying out what's the strategic cost of the issue, what are the background elements, solutions I see possible, the one I'm leaning towards and why, and what I need from you, the leader. It's very often that if they bring the issue at all, it's something that gets walked through very quickly because it's a very specific thing they need. But more importantly, they're able to look through the issue and resolve it themselves, realizing with much more clarity what the answer is that's most appropriate at that time. It's going back to the questions. Again, it's not the answer that enlightens, but the process of questioning. And right now, my God, what I want to scream from the mountaintops is question everything. And no, I don't mean question the authorities. I don't mean questioning the information that's coming from the CDC and the medical professionals that are surrounding us. That information is very clear. But what I mean is question what's going on around you that's not coming from the professionals. And we can have another conversation as to whether we leave medical professionals as the be-all, end-all gospel. That's another conversation. Right now, it's important that we pay attention to that. But looking at, my God, I am getting email after email after email from folks saying, don't worry, the event we have scheduled next week will be fine. We have less than 50 people. Or, no, don't worry, we'll keep space. Ask better questions. What's the most important thing to ask right now? What's the most creative way you can still have these gatherings and events and connections? How can you create them virtually? What are the creative ways that you can do the things that need to get done without having, or while honoring social distancing? I'm not going to get preachy about COVID-19. What I want to get clear about is, are you asking the right questions? Pay attention to what's going on around you and ask better questions. And when your folks come to you, well, Dwayne, go ahead and give me a better question. Can you explain more about the situation? What are the consequences of going this route? Dwayne, going which route? So go ahead and play out that question in the chat so I can better answer that. And Darlene said, how are you fostering leadership in your own people? The first time I was director of multiple departments, I burned myself to a crisp giving answers to people. I was trapped in the cycle of having to be there in every member insurer as the CEO. So when you make yourself invaluable, when you are constantly answering everybody's question, you become an invaluable resource. When you are helping them answer the questions, right, instead of answering them for them, when you are helping them unearth what the answer is, there's a difference. What they end up doing is learning to be more independent, more self-sufficient. When you give them the answer, you create the dependency. So they say, great, when I'm stuck, I can go to Darlene and Darlene will answer my question. I'm going to skip trying to figure this crap out myself and I'm going to go right to Darlene. And that pattern becomes ingrained very, very quickly. Based on your experience, what do you suggest we do here? Well, Dwayne, you and I are part of a group that gets together every month, somewhere 70, 80 people. And I've been having conversations in the background about, I thought we should have converted the meeting that just happened this last week to a virtual meeting. And I think it's important that we start looking at how do we get creative about how do we serve our members? How do we serve our communities while not getting together face to face? There's some incredible tools. We're on one right now. My wife's got a LinkedIn Live interview coming up in a couple hours. I have an interview at 11:30 that's a recorded interview that'll be played back later. I have an event coming up that I'm part of that's a 4-day live streaming event that's a virtual real-time exchange of information. And Elaine's running a multi-day virtual summit. The World Business and Executive Coach Summit is 10-month-long virtual summit that's now inviting folks who are severely impacted by COVID-19 to join for free for the remaining months to be part of the community. There are so many ways to engage people online. As I watched the stock market plummet 4 out of 5 days last week, Zoom, the stock for the company that does virtual meeting platform, zoom.us, Zoom stock was going up 4 out of 5 days last week. They're uniquely situated for this time right now. Yeah, and Darlene is saying, yeah, it was such a high expectation when it wasn't. So the idea that people become dependent upon those who just automatically give them answers. And the leaders that are truly the best leaders are the ones who help those that bring them questions to either ask better questions or to uncover the answer themselves, right? It's about serving, not pleasing. The way to please them is to say, oh, here's the answer, right? How often do we see the story of the guru sitting on top of the mountain and the person who climbs the mountain struggling, blood, sweat, and tears to get to the top of the mountain, only to receive not an answer from the guru on the top of the mountain, but more questions. It's not the answer that enlightens. It's not the answer that allows our folk that we lead and serve and parent to grow. It's the questions that we ask them. So Len says, lack of development, lack of delegation leads to burnout. And I think burnout on both sides. and no one there to push you up. Learning to ask better questions is a development topic. And I think that's something that, okay, I'm gonna get a little preachy for a second. I fundamentally believe we're at the golden age of coaching right now, and here's why. Leaders are expected to magically have this coach approach to leading their direct reports, even leading around their table. And the idea that they're expected to have this coach approach, and yet they're neither being given the training to have this coach approach to leadership, nor are they given coaching. So right now we have a whole generation of leaders, senior management and up, that are magically expected to have this brilliant coach approach to fostering development and growth in their direct reports without being given any support. That's why there's such a thirst for coaching right now in corporate America. And I say corporate America because I'm seeing this in industry around the globe. And it is a beautiful thing that leaders are learning and growing to understand that it's not about having the answer. It's about growing their people. It's not about growing the numbers. It's about growing their people. If you want to grow the people, if you want to grow your company, grow your people. And if you want to grow your people, start by growing yourself. And that is a powerful leadership lesson to learn. And this quote absolutely fits right into that. It's not the answer that enlightens. It's not being the answer guy or gal. It's not being indispensable because you're spouting off wisdom. The leaders that have longevity, the leaders that make it more than the quarter by quarter by quarter revenue review, are the ones that are asking the better questions, the ones that are helping their clients and their colleagues and their employees and their direct reports to ask better questions. So I'm curious, what's the question that's powerful for you to ask right now? What's the question that's important for you to play with right now? As the world is shifting and more restrictions are being put on as we're in the early part of this COVID-19 shift, right? What's important for you to pay attention to? So I'm curious, come to facebook.com/groups/mindset Mondays. I'd love to hear from you about what the question is that's important for you to be playing with. What's the powerful question for you to be rolling around with? And between now and next week, what mindset will you choose?